Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video I want to talk about what's called the dopamine trap. So to begin this video, what is dopamine exactly? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and your body signals this when it's pretty much described as like the feel-good chemical. And when you achieve something or accomplish something, maybe you eat good food, or maybe you have intercourse, this is your body's like natural signal as a response. It's kind of like the reward. Think of, say, a dog. Drug dogs, for example, they're trained in a certain way so that when they smell the drugs or whatever, they're able to pinpoint and target it, and then as a result they get fed. So that's a positive feedback loop for them. They associate finding that drug or whatever with getting fed. Think of humans as in a similar way. So when humans have a good experience, this neurotransmitter goes off. So this is just a part of one of the body's many functions. The body has many functions. We experience pain, we experience feeling good. All these things, they're in order to kind of ensure our survival and prompt us to target certain things and prompt us away from doing other things. So yes, it is known as the feel-good chemical, but it could also very much be the feel-bad chemical, depending on how it exactly is utilized. So in a so-called natural world, we can say we're living in a natural world, but in a so-called natural world, dopamine is very much a good thing. And however, yes, it is a good thing, but when we're living in an unnatural world, a world very much far apart from when we were first brought onto this earth, it serves very different functions. And that's because in our modern day we have a lot of things which trigger this dopamine, which we would not have experienced in the past. For example, we have a lot of fast food, junk food. Now, there's a time and a place for this. I'm not sitting there saying that it's bad completely. However, it needs to be moderated. And a lot of time, just because we have the convenience of, ordering food straight to our house, or going to a fast food restaurant and getting food for a pretty affordable price. Most of the time, that is, depending on not necessarily for everyone, but for most people. Or for example, we have social media, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have infinite scrolling, we have YouTube Shorts feed. All these things are targeted in a way to trigger our dopamine to go off in unnatural ways in order to keep us addicted. And as a result, something that's supposed to be a natural process becomes very much unnatural very quickly. Think about, so now I'm getting to kind of the next point of the video. One, I guess, final point I would like to add to that modern day overload is, corn. Corn is another way in which we really overload our brains with dopamine. And think about, for example, if you actually were in hunter-gatherer times, maybe you're able to get one woman in the tribe, or you're very much limited. However, now that you have corn, a lot of people get off to that and they fry their dopamine receptors in that regard. So that's just another example of modern day overload, which never really existed in the past. And why in our modern day dopamine doesn't serve the same role as it necessarily naturally would have used to. Next point I want to talk about is short-term versus kind of long-term dopamine. So due to our modern day times, it really incentivizes a lot of people to experience short-term dopamine highs, and we're able to experience them very frequently and very often on top of that. And that's because at the click of a button of technology, we're able to achieve a quick high, a quick boost. similar to a junkie. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way or anything either. And as a result of that, a lot of people, they just, whenever, you know, if they're in a sad state of mind, if they're in a depressed place or not, you know, having the best mood, a lot of times people default to spiking that dopamine through short-term forms of it, such as watching porn, such as eating a lot of fast food, such as browsing the feed infinitely when they have other things that they need to get done. Whereas, you know, in the past, dopamine was very situational, and it couldn't just be raised at any given moment just as easily. And the problem with this is, when we experience these short-term dopamine highs, it really discourages us from experiencing the long-term ones. Long-term ones such as, you know, having a family, because you can just, you know, have intercourse at any time on a dating app or whatever. Or, you know, let's say you have long-term goals to really build up a supply. In the past, that would have been maybe a supply of long-term food for your tribe, your group. Nowadays, that goal doesn't really need to be the case because we have such easy access to short-term food. Any moment I could go to a supermarket and the store is stocked completely full. Or I could order food off of Uber Eats, or if you're in, let's say, Southeast Asia, you could order off of Grab. And this leads to a lot of unintended consequences in the fact that long-term, you're very much discouraged from achieving your goals. And what you'll often see as a result of people kind of experiencing these short-term dopamine highs is that they don't have any long-term aims. They don't have any long-term ambition because it's completely crushed. Because they're like, why should I wait to experience the long-term high when I could just experience the short-term high right then and there? But what exactly is the problem with that, you may ask? The problem with that is when you experience too many short-term highs through, you're constantly spiking your dopamine, what ends up naturally occurring is that you end up burning out, you end up desensitizing yourself. This is a very important fact and an important, I guess, principle which I'm going to relay in a lot of my videos, which is desensitization. And what that means is, originally, the first time, you know, you spike that dopamine or whatever, that you experience that high, it may feel amazing. The second time, it may also feel amazing. Even maybe the 50th or the 100th time, it may feel amazing. But what ends up inevitably happening is that it starts to lose that same effect, and slowly it begins to wane. That original high that felt amazing, now all of a sudden just feels good. Then it just feels okay. And all of a sudden, you feel nothing. You feel very numb, and it doesn't have that same effect that it once had. And a lot of people that find themselves chasing that high start to feel is, I used to experience these highs, why am I not feeling them anymore? And especially if you were relying on those highs as a form of happiness, as a form of fulfillment, as a form of satisfaction, you no longer feel satisfied. You start to become very unfulfilled. You start to become very depressed. And this is where the danger happens. I call it burnout. Burnout is that point in time in which those dopamine highs no longer serve the same effect that they used to, and now you just feel nothing, numbness, emptiness. And I think this is very dangerous. It's not necessarily a permanent state of being. However, if you do reach this place, it could be very dangerous. I myself have experienced this in some form or another. I think we all have in some form or another, but it is very imperative and very crucial that you avoid this state because it is not good for your overall health. So what exactly should you do instead? Well, one, you have to break free. But you may be asking me, how exactly do you break free? Well, to break free, you need to understand what actually brings you contentment and happiness. A lot of time people, you know, they assume that these superficial small things are going to make them happy, that they're going to make them feel satisfied. But the reality is that's not really the case. It is actually, life is very simple, and a lot of times people overcomplicate. They think that buying that new car, or, you know, trying that new, you know, Michelin star food, not necessarily that that's bad or anything, but people think that all these like material things are gonna actually bring them to happiness. But someone in the poorest country that has the least access to consumerism can be just as happy as someone that's super rich in the richest country. And that's because they find satisfaction in the small things rather than finding satisfaction in chasing these dopamine highs. And you want to find satisfaction in just the little things in life: your family, your friends, your relationships, health, nature. You know, find a purpose, find something that motivates you in life, and, you know, maintain that motivation. These are all things that actually, and when you actually accomplish those things, you experience a very steady baseline, and rather than experiencing highs followed by the low, which is that burnout, you just experience a constant state of, you know, homeostasis. That's what I consider the real happiness, the real contentment, and the real like power in life. So just find out what actually, you know, focus on the simple things in life. Those, you know, reflect on those moments in your life where you just were very content, even if nothing really was going on, you know, relative to these material things. And overall, well, naturally, that dopamine, you won't need that to kind of sustain your existence. You'll be just completely cool for a very flat baseline. So that's what I call the dopamine trap, and that is how to kind of overall avoid this. So thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. I offer a free 15-minute consultation, as well as my Discord group is linked down below in the description of the video. And if you guys would like to donate to the channel, I have my Bitcoin address down below. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.